So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we sign this really important, long overdue, and national setting resolution. It's really a momentous occasion and would not have been possible without the dedication of every person behind me and in this room, and would not have been needed but for the many, many women who have suffered and disappeared, who were forgotten, but for the activists and hardworking people behind me who said they matter. For too long, we've ignored the devastating reality of missing and murdered Indigenous women here in Puget Sound and across our country. I am so grateful to my friend Debora Juarez for her leadership in making sure that this change happened to protect Indigenous women in their communities. She has always been dedicated advocate for our most marginalized communities, and not just for her beloved D5, but throughout our city and our region, and frankly, anywhere she sees injustice, Debora Juarez speaks up. Her work to ensure that the city address this crisis is no exception. And I know how important, though, this particular issue was to her. And I can't tell you how proud I am to have her as a friend and to stand with her here this evening. I also want to recognize the landmark work of Abigail Echo-Hawk and the Urban Indian Health Institute. It was both a labor of love and heartbreak, I am sure, to make sure that the research was complete so that this could no longer be denied. It was absolutely critical to our city taking this really necessary step to do this. So Abigail, thank you for everything you've done to make our city better. I'm grateful for your work. I'm so sorry it took us so long. On Monday, I'll transmit my budget. Its budget will include money dedicated to make sure that we support the work outlined in the resolution I have the honor of signing. I also want to thank Esther for all the work that she and the others have done to protect Indian health in our community. We have one of the best Indian health systems anywhere in the country because the dedicated health people that started it and made sure it continued. And we know that our Native community is disproportionately present in all of the bad metrics. They're overrepresented in our criminal justice system, overrepresented in our homeless system, overrepresented in poverty. And we in the city of Seattle, who are a city named for a Native leader, have to do better everywhere we can. We will be creating a dedicated Native American community liaison at SPD so that at least that connection is better than it has been. And I know that Chief Best is enthusiastically supportive of that and wants to start that work as quickly as possible. Finally, I want to say something to the families, friends, and loved ones of those who have endured the tragedy and heartbreak. We stand with you. We are inspired by your bravery, and we are sorry that we did not support you when you needed it. Know that the City of Seattle is committed to ending this crisis, to ensuring that our Indigenous women and girls are safe, that they know that they have a place, and they can be just as amazing as these three women behind me, and one dude, and that we can build a better life for everyone. And with that, I'm super proud to turn this over to Abigail and let her speak.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here on such a momentous occasion, one in the history books, and for the very first time in the history books that is positive towards my community. In 2018, in November, we released a groundbreaking report titled Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls in 71 Cities in the United States. In this report, the city of Seattle had the highest number of missing and murdered Indigenous women. The highest number as we stand in a city named after one of our chiefs, as we stand in a city where we not only traded, but we lived and we breathed and we contributed to a vibrant economy. We are going to do that again. We have been in a place where we have been institutionally underserved here in the city of Seattle, particularly in the safety of our women and our girls. This legislation, this investment in our Native community is going to right a wrong, and it is a start, and it is a beautiful start, and unlike one that is happening across the country, we have this opportunity to lead. And I am ecstatic to work with my incredible Blackfeet sister, Councilwoman Debora Juarez, and the incredible folks at the Seattle Indian Health Board, where I have the opportunity to serve, because our women deserve more. The number of stories of family members who have come to me as they've wept, as we've watched them march with their fists in the air and their red skirts touching the earth. We know that this is something that is affecting, not when it just happens to one of our community members, it affects the entire community. If you lose one family member, how does that impact the rest of your community? And I'm telling you, it is directly impacting the rates of homelessness, of behavioral health issues. All of those things can go trace back to the trauma that our people have experienced. When this started, and this epidemic didn't start 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It started more than 500 years ago with the first colonization that happened on this land. We have an opportunity now to not only recognize it and where it started, but to know how to end it, and to see this opportunity where we have a piece of legislation that allows us to make strategic movement led by Native communities in partnership with the city. We are showing the rest of the country and the rest of the world what it means to no longer let this happen again. We will not have our women go missing and murdered anymore. And I'm so thankful to the city of Seattle and the work that we are going to be able to do here. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to sign. I also failed to recognize Pete Holmes, who has been a champion in this city for a long time for civil rights generally, and who is so supportive of this endeavor. Pete, thank you for your leadership as well.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you for the leadership. It's official now. The city of Seattle will take these momentous steps. And can we say again, it is empowering community that lifts community up. Thank you so much.
We have a gift for you. Yeah, she better be better than mine. What you give her?
That's fantastic. Thank you
We have
very
one
much.
more for you over here too.
Mayor Durkan, I'm going to ask our drummer of the group to help me with this. But I want to give you a drum on behalf of the Seattle Indian Health Board and the Indian Health Board. Thank you for championing this work, and thank you for putting real resources so that we can create true change. We really appreciate that. We want you to know it hasn't happened anywhere in this nation. So thank you for that so much. So Aaron?
And we don't give these drums lightly. These are for our champions. People who go above and beyond to make sure that our community is well. So we want to present this to you. This is a Coast Salish drum, so you hold it on the back here. When we give it to you, this is yours. You're going to take this and you're going to hit it, and that symbolizes that you accept the gift. Thank you.
This is beautiful. You know, it was beautiful when I was down with your sister at Chief Seattle Club last week. We were talking about all the great housing that's going there to house people. And she said that I spent 2 years living in a native village in Alaska. And I realized it was a village that at its maximum was 150 people. And that we could have housed the whole village and the housing is still building. And it was, it's meaningful. So thank you for this. It's beautiful. Now don't ask me to sing.
That's what really solidifies
brought the singing up.
Oh, that's right.
Karaoke chant.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Did we get some good
Shots.
Okay, good.
Get some shots. You wanna get
Oh,
a
that was
Yeah, I haven't
designed,
even told you about that.
actually, a Blackfeet artist, John Isaiah Pepion,
Blackfeet.
Blackfeet.
Yeah.
What's that again? Yeah.
He, so this recognizes that it's colonial data, and it hasn't been used for our people. Instead, we come with our strength and our tradition, and our next generations are our feet, which is the corn, and we keep Western science in a box so that we can truly bring the strength of our people through all the information we share, like our report. That's fantastic.
With a planes gift and a coat.
Yeah.
Give you the East Coast.
That's right. She was worried you were going to give me earrings.
I was.
If you get earrings, I get them.
If she gets jewelry, I want them. Well, I really appreciate it.
I
Absolutely.
can't tell you enough how important your work is. Thank you.
Did you want to
Well, we've been
I
doing
think
this across
if
the
everybody's
country.
willing, we can take some.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking.
They want to picture from the seal.
Oh, from the seal. Yeah.
I'm gonna take pictures. You're gonna take pictures.
Thank you so much. Hey, guys.
Hi,
Yay, can you believe it?
Congratulations.
How are you? Very exciting.
Congratulations.
Good to see you. Congratulations to you all. So, good evening. I want to thank you all for being here today. I am so excited to sign into law our plan for the sale of the underutilized city-owned Mercer Street property and our plan for maximizing the benefits for everybody in Seattle. With this step, we are seizing a generational opportunity to make transformational investments in housing, jobs, amazing public spaces, and transportation safety. With signing this, we will be advancing our shared goal of delivering nearly $300 million. Let me say that number again. $300 million of public benefits for the people of Seattle. That includes housing, jobs, resources to fight homelessness, beautiful new public spaces, pedestrian and transportation projects, and jobs into the future. The buyer, Alexandria Real Estate Equities, has agreed to make a number of investments on site at no cost to the city so that all of our residents can enjoy it. And the city will receive over $143 million in proceeds that we can then invest for the next generation, for the challenges we are facing. Under the agreement, 175 affordable apartments will be built on the site in South Lake Union, a part of our city that does not have enough housing, affordable housing, that people can afford to live there. Without the subsidy, it would be difficult for people to live in that market rate buildings in those areas. We know South Lake Union has been the heart of some of our economic growth, but so many people have not been a part of that growth, and too few people can afford to live there. With the proceeds from the sale, the city will also make over $78 million in new investments in affordable housing. $57 million of that will go towards really addressing displacement. As the city has grown, too many people have been pushed out of the communities they've lived in. We know, for example, when I was growing up, the Central District was over 70% African American, and today it's less than 14%. So many families pushed out, we need to stop that displacement. We will also be investing $15 million to nearly double the city's portfolio of permanently affordable apartments, and use $6 million of the proceeds to create a pilot loan program so that families can actually afford to build a backyard cottage and support other families. This agreement will also create good family wage jobs, both for the people who are constructing the buildings and for those who will work in those buildings. Our plan includes a project labor agreement that will help ensure these properties are supporting the best family wage jobs from the best workers anywhere in America. And once the sites are developed, they will support hundreds and maybe thousands of jobs in the life science arena. I am convinced we will cure cancer in Seattle, and it may be in those buildings. Homelessness is one of the biggest challenges that we face. Selling this underused property also allows us to continue to do things there that we've not been able to address. As part of the $143 million, Alexandria will also make a $5 million contribution to help our city to prevent and address homelessness. As part of this agreement, we can bring South Lake Union something this community has been asking for a very long time, a new community center for all Seattle residents. Under the terms we negotiated, Alexandria will build a 30,000 square foot community center at no cost to the residents of Seattle. Finally, the revenue from the sale also gives us the ability to advance critical transportation safety and mobility projects so people have safe options to get around Seattle. At no cost to the city, Alexandria will extend 8th Avenue North as a pedestrian right-of-way. And they will extend the two-way protected bike lane on the north side of Mercer Street that runs between 9th Avenue and Dexter. And using $16.7 million of the sale, we will support new and planned capital projects to improve safety and increase our transportation options. Over half of the investments we are making are a key part of our Housing for Seattle Now. Along with this new initiative, this morning I announced working protections for the drivers of Uber and Lyft, mandating that they be paid a minimum wage and reasonable expenses. I also announced that it will provide $52 million in investments in housing near transit for people earning between $15 and $25 an hour. As our minimum wage has gone up, as we have led the nation, it hasn't been enough for workers to actually live in Seattle because it's so expensive. We need to change that. I also acted to renew and improve our multifamily tax exemption program. That helps make apartments available for middle-class workers. Our teachers, our nurses, our healthcare workers, they can't afford to live in Seattle without having more housing. I really want to give a lot of credit to Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda. She acted to be one of the first cities in the state to secure the $50 million in resources for permanent supportive housing without raising taxes. She gave us the authorization so that we don't have to send all the sales tax to Olympia. We can keep it here and put it to work for the people of Seattle. In partnership with Councilmember Herbold, we updated the tenant protections to help people stay in place. We know we can and will do more. I look forward to announcing in my budget in the next few weeks, working with Council, how we continue using these proceeds to make these investments for the future of Seattle. And with that, we'll sign it and make it official.
Yes.
First, I'll be signing the authorization to sign the Memorandum of Understanding. I've never signed a property sale this big. Should I do it?
Sure.
We're going to put the property of Seattle to work for the people of Seattle. Thank you to everyone who made this possible. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
All right, good job. Congratulations. All right, good job, Stan. All right, Robin. Let's get that housing built. Thank you, everyone.